Ooh, what can you do with Siri?
Well, I'm a big home automation geek,
Ooh.
and so I can kind of do everything with Siri. I can open the garage doors and turn on lights and set the thermostat and just play music on my Sonos and all sorts of fun stuff. So I can do all that with Alexa too. But I have an Apple Watch, so Siri's just kind of always right there. And
Do you have access to Siri Kit yet? Is that something that's out for developers or no?
Um, well, I think it is, but oh, I need to mute my phone. I think it is, but I actually kind of have used this Raspberry Pi hack
Mm,
called Homebridge. Are you familiar with Homebridge?
I am now. Homebridge. I'm writing this down.
Yeah, so you can basically install some node libraries onto a Raspberry Pi that's sitting on your network and hook it through smart things, and then basically it goes like Siri to the cloud to your Apple TV to your smart things. It's kind of convoluted, but it's actually not that hard to set up. It takes just a couple hours to do. And so now I can do everything with my watch, which is really fun.
Oh, I'm excited now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great too, because my wife, who was like, "What are you doing this for? This is so ridiculous." And now she's the one, when we're going to bed, she says, "Hey Siri, good night." And then the whole house shuts down.
Oh, because it
So
runs a routine.
yeah, yeah. And here's my phone actually thinking I'm talking to it. Yeah, so it runs a routine and makes sure the doors are locked and the garage doors are down and the thermostat's set right and all the lights are turned out and all that. So
You rocking the
yeah.
Nest?
No, I'm using Echo Bee. I like open systems, and the Nest is a little too closed for me. I like system, which ironic since I'm a big fan of Siri because that's kind of closed to your point about the Siri kit. But no, I kind of like things that I can hack into a little bit. I don't get a chance to code during the day with my regular job, and so
Right.
I kind of I take advantage of my time at home and my home automation geekiness to code a little bit.
Like a
Wow,
weekend
what a rabbit
afternoon.
hole this
Yeah.
goes into, right?
No, this is the value, man. You like the Echo Bee because I haven't used it yet.
Yeah, it's really good. It actually gives you tons of great information about the energy that your house is using, and it has remote thermometers, so you can put thermometers in other rooms. So, for example, during the day, it's paying attention to the living room and the den, and then at night, it pays attention to the temperature in the bedrooms. And so that way, you're really paying attention to the rooms that matter when you're in them, kind of thing. And of course, it can figure out if you're there or not too. So it's actually a little smarter than Nest, at least today. I don't know. I haven't looked at Nest in the last year or two, but these things are always leapfrogging each other. So who can say?
Yeah, I'm gonna hook a sensor up to my daughter so I can tell when she's sick.
Yeah, exactly,
Or
exactly.
my wife so I can see when she's mad. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, the other conversation you had in the podcast about Alexa was pretty interesting though, and
Which
sounds like
one?
you've embraced yours. You guys were talking about, I think, a little bit about just sort of whether you trust Alexa or not, and
Oh yeah.
and all that, and I guess maybe I'm too trusting, but I'm right now I'm kind of just letting things go out there and see what I can get accomplished
I'm
until someone
playing
scares me away from it.
I'm playing the signal versus noise game where I just create so much Alexa content that good luck trying to sift through it.
Yeah, I think whoever figures out how to understand natural language the best is going to win. And I guess Google and Alexa and Apple are all competing for that right now. I understand Google's doing the best job of it. I haven't even played with Google Home yet. Have you played around with that one?
Yeah, we got one for the office. I love, and I was actually talking about this the other day too. I think it's a strength that Amazon has Bezos behind it and Facebook has Zuck behind it, and Google, their person behind them isn't much of a force like that you imagine about. They're very split, right? When they went off in the alphabet and now they have all these different sub CEOs and they're not like, I like that I can imagine Jeff Bezos behind this. That's like a human part of me that
Yeah,
I can feel is hooking the situation. Like everybody
not
loved
just a
Jaws.
not just a department.
Yeah, it's like I'm cool with Amazon being a mega corp as long as I can put a head on the corp, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I guess it's why the Boring Company was able to sell fire throwers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's the cult of Elon Musk. You know, we oh well, he's using it. We got to get one.
But he's just cool.
Yeah, I wanted to buy one, but they sold out.
All out. We can make some. We can IoT. We can make like a little IoT one, right? So you can see like the status of my flamethrower, see how much like propellant's in it, and like that'd be fun.
I want to say, hey Siri, throw some fire. That would be
Ooh,
fun.
fireball.
Of course, I live downtown in a condo, so I'm not sure how much my neighbors would appreciate a flamethrower coming off the balcony, but it would be interesting.
Well, you could make a party out of it, right? Get some hors d'oeuvres, and then you could, roast the food with it.
Fondue,
Fondue. There you go.
you got
Flamethrower
it.
fondue. There's a new restaurant. Oh, we got to do
That's
that
a
franchise.
or at least a party theme. That's great, man.
So you're in North Carolina?
Yeah, yeah. Which is also funny because you mentioned the weather in North Carolina the other day too, and so I was thinking, gosh, that's kind of ironic talking about the weather in North Carolina.
Oh, I'm a big fan. Every year, we go up to Murphy and that whole little area right there where it joins with the place in Georgia. I forget all the time the name of the town I love there, but it's like 10 minutes or 20 minutes from Murphy, but it's in Georgia. So
Oh, like in Southwest North Carolina.
yeah, yeah, we go up there in the mountains and we do an Airbnb cabin,
Oh, nice.
and then we had a baby. So
Ah, congratulations. That's what happens with Airbnb cabins, I guess.
yeah. Oh man, yeah, that's hilarious because I didn't even draw that parallel. So yeah, is that your home? Is that your hometown? Is that where you grew up?
No, I grew up next door in Tennessee, so I really grew up in Nashville and Memphis, but
Okay.
went to school in Knoxville, which is not too far from where you were,
Hmm.
and just fell in love with the mountains and love North Carolina as a state. We're not far from the ocean, and we've got bad skiing not too far away, and so it's a really nice spot, and the weather's nice. Speaking of the weather, and we have seasons, and but it never gets too hot or too cold. So no, it's a great place. I like the people too. I've been here about 10 years and plan to retire in North Carolina. So,
You know that
but
they
no,
were looking at North Carolina's looking at. I'm not sure if it already happened or if they're doing it, but privatizing the DMV system.
is that right?
Yeah, because can't. I don't know how much. I'm going to say the least amount possible, but I was doing consulting on a technology project of an individual who was going to be taking that business, going to be doing running the business, and
Hmm.
they were looking at how to make the DMV more efficient and using technology to do that. And then I was involved with consulting on that project. We
Wow, that's
we came
pretty
up with some
cool.
awesome ideas, by the way. Like we could make the DMV so much better, and it took what like an afternoon of us
Yeah,
whiteboarding,
yeah,
and we're like,
yeah.
oh, we've got the answers to how we can take this whole DMV experience and just like instantly flip it around, and it should definitely be that should I don't care if it's privatized or government. I don't care. I just those efficiencies should happen everywhere, every DMV.
And all of government. Yeah,
All
absolutely. I mean, broadening that picture. I don't know if this was something you guys did, but one of the nice things now is you can go online to renew your driver's license, which sounds like a no big deal. But what most people don't realize is if you go to the DMV office to renew your driver's license, you have to like retake your test or something crazy like that. But if you do it online, you just have to give them your credit card number and they mail you a new one. So
oh
it's
yeah.
a little hidden secret about that where the analog world has caught up with the digital world yet. But I'm going to give you credit for that. How about that?
All right, and trust me, yeah, our state, Florida, has had that for. I've done it the last two times. That's been 8 years. So I mean,
Oh
Florida's
yeah.
had the renewal. It's you can do it two times, and the third time you have to go in or something like that.
I'll bet that's the same. I've only done it once here. I don't actually know how long it's been around, but gosh, it's definitely a convenient way to do it for sure.
Oh yeah, and this was even farther optimization. Like it would all the reasons other than that you would still need to go in, it would take it beyond that. So I was pumped. But we'll change the conversation so I don't violate any contracts. I don't need
You're
that.
hitting up against your NDAs now, right?
I don't even want to wonder if I am. I just want to I want to talk about your DevOps. You talk about
Yeah.
culture hacks, DevOps. I want to hear what your thoughts are in that world.
Yeah, it's interesting. We at Small Footprint, we got into Agile sort of around the same time everyone else did. Let's say 8, 9 years ago, and been doing pretty well with that. And then all of a sudden, sort of this DevOps thing started happening a few years ago, and like I think the rest of the world, I was really looking at it as, okay, I have to figure out which tools I have to learn. We have to figure out how to get people trained. We have to figure out how it's going to change our processes and everything. And as we were doing this, we realized, especially now, a lot of those decisions have gotten really easy, and it's really sort of the way DevOps affects your culture and the way your culture can actually impact how you are successful with DevOps. Because ultimately, it's changing how people in the organization are working and what they're responsible for. So it was really a kind of a light bulb effect about a year and a half ago when I was really talking to to the organization and to our customers about about DevOps and kind of realizing, gosh, the tools aren't even the biggest challenge. It's the people. And so it's really been impactful. And I'll tell you, we continue to work today on how we have to change our culture to really embrace DevOps. And as you know, I'm sure, whenever you're implementing anything new, you kind of start looking at your tech debt, looking at those old projects that you were working on, and realizing, okay, it's not as simple as taking that, piece of code and putting it into your Git repository and spinning up a Jenkins instance. It's really about getting folks to think differently. So
Like
it's been a
Circle
really
CI.
eye-opening thing.
I'm joking. I'm sorry. I
It's
ran
okay.
Jenkins for a long time and then I switched and I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Are you guys
Well, and
so
yeah, go ahead.
so I just want to give some context. So your company, you want to talk a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, so we're a software innovation company. We've been around about 15 years, and we work with customer partners all around the U.S. And about half of our business is working with enterprise clients, where we're helping them create software products for their organizations to solve business problems that they can't solve with off-the-shelf software. And then the other half of our business is working with ISVs, so working with companies that have software as a product, and we help them with everything from product strategy, like how to determine what your MVP needs to be, all the way through to delivery of the product, and helping come up with the strategies around that, and of course implementing it. But we've our practice really more and more over the last, especially 3 or 4 years, has become less about the development, although we still do that, and more about the consulting, because what we all have to kind of admit to ourselves is that building software is not easy to do, and you really have to think less about the technologies and the headcount, and more about the processes around doing it, and making sure that you're solving business problems, not just writing a bunch of code. And so we've actually shifted more and more to where, in fact, the last couple of years, most of our hiring has been around folks with a lot of experience in software development, who are working as consultants, either as digital strategists or agile transformation experts, or user experience, for example. So some of these areas that most software development firms didn't even think about a few years ago. So it's been fun. It's a good time to be in software development. And if you've been working with CI, you know how much that's changing things. And so it's I've been doing this myself professionally since the mid '90s. How long is that? A long time.
Yeah.
And I really view the last few years as some of the most exciting in the industry. And a lot of it's around DevOps, especially the last couple of years, and how that's impacting our organizations and the companies that we partner with.
So how did you meet your co-founder, Richard? Is he go by Rich or Richard?
Yeah, he goes. I call him Rich sometimes, but he goes by
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah.
No, it's actually interesting. He actually founded the company when he lived in Hungary, and then moved to Winston Salem in North Carolina about the same time I did, and so I actually met him as a customer. And
Hmm.
so I spent about 15 years in corporate America, and was I'll be honest with you, a little bit fed up, kind of seeing things done for the wrong reasons, and in the wrong ways, and got to know Richard as a customer and really liked the approach and of really a hands-on, helping me figure out what I was trying to accomplish, from a business goal, not just, again, writing lines of code. And so, was, as I say, I was fortunate enough to be laid off during the recession, and actually bought into the business almost 10 years ago. This is my 10th year with Small Footprint, and it's been a great ride since. So we've been doing this together. We're actually still like each other. We're still good friends, and so I'm very fortunate about that. But no, and it's really been great. And the nice thing is that a lot of the reason that this company was founded was cultural. Richard wanted to create a good culture, and I was attracted to that culture, and he and I have continued to grow it and morph it. And like I said, we started in the maybe early days of Agile and seeing how that affected it. And so a lot of the decisions we've made about processes and things like that we brought into the company have been really focused on how it impacts the culture internally and how we work with our customers, and the impact that culture has on them, which obviously had a good impact on me because I was a customer, and liked the experience so much I bought into it.
And what is an average day? I'm actually looking over all the stuff you guys talk about on your capabilities and your website, and I'm reading about product strategy design. I like you guys because
Oh, thanks.
you're saying the things that like I talk about. Like this is what it is. I can always, you get a feel when you go to a site and you start reading through, and it's like it's either very ambiguous or it's older buzzwords, or it's like you can just tell that the content isn't written by someone who's extraordinarily knowledgeable about the subject. And as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh yeah, they say that they're saying the right things. Like that's more than half the battle, is to be even selling and saying the right things, right?
Well, great. Thank you for that. That's a tremendous compliment. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so what does an average day look like for you?
You know, for me, and I'm certainly more focused on the technology than some of the other areas, but a lot of what we do, especially in our leadership, is really making sure that we are working with clients where we feel like we can have an impact. And so for me, a lot of that is, do we have the skills necessary and the technologies in our stack to be able to address a particular business problem, or answer the questions that our customers have. But it's we really strive to look for customer partners where they're as eager to learn and get better as we are.
Mhm.
And if they're not willing, we kind of look at this as these three tenets. So if they don't if they don't have outdated process, or outdated technology, or outdated user experience, we're probably not going to be able to help them. If they're doing well on all those things, then we might not be the right partner for them. So it's funny, we spend almost as much time disqualifying our partners as we do finding the right ones. And when we do find the right ones, it's great. And it's not that we know everything or have everything figured out. No, even like culture, we feel like we still have a long way to go, even though we feel like we're more mature than most organizations. But it's we all really have this strive to learn and do better and help our customers do better, because ultimately we want to win with them and help them solve their business problems or have a successful product, or whatever the case may be. And I'm glad you picked up that on that in our blog, because really, what we strive to do, and the way we talk on our website, is really just share, the challenges that we have, that we're trying to solve, and in a way that we're certainly not going to be preachy, because we don't have everything figured out yet. But being open that, look, we're going to tell you what we're good at, we're going to tell you what we're not good at, and but we have confidence in what we can do, And if you're willing to work with us and learn together with us, we can become a great partnership. And that's ultimately what we're looking for every day is to find those customer partners that we feel like we can grow and learn and succeed together.
Yeah, you mentioned um, when I was right, you set my mind off in about 100 directions. It's like
Okay.
squirrel, uh, so that ability to meet and find out if you can provide value to the other individual, even though like sometimes people are sold on like you being the answer, and then I'm like, I don't think I can bring you value. So that happens. That's a tough struggle. It's also I just went through this process of writing my first book, and that whole concept of like when I started out with the editor, I'm like, look, what I want to do is I want to position this whole thing as here's my experience. Like this is what's true to me. And then take that and leverage my experience. And then you can find yourself as you're going through the process getting like really passionate in some of those items, or like you have to do it this way. Like this is the way to do it. Like I'm very passionate about it. Others, I'm like, oh, this is the experience I had. Take it for what you will. And so going back and forth between like trying to find the balance between preachy and sharing is always like a tough thing to do.
Yeah, no doubt. And there are definitely some non-negotiables when we engage. And one of those is that we have to all be engaged. And I think back in the days of waterfall, where you would go sit down and spend 6 months gathering requirements and then go away for 2 years and come back and bring you the piece of software that they didn't want. That was sort of the way the world worked, and we've all forgotten what it was like 10 or so years ago. But so just saying you're agile and having a daily stand up is not going to solve that problem. Really, everyone has to be involved. So one of our non-negotiables is that we have to have folks from our customer partners who are actively engaged with us, with our team. So it's not even a one-on-one, like everyone needs to be talking to everyone so that we all understand what the business goals are and that we can all talk through things and make sure it's really clear so that we're actually delivering something that people actually want, that works and solves the business problem. And so, that's definitely a non-negotiable, and that will never change. At least through my career, we'll always, insist that people from both sides of the fence are talking on a regular basis so that we can all be prepared to go along. And the other one really is transparency. I don't know if you've read this book that's been really popular lately, Getting Naked, which we hate to say that because if you take it out of context, it sounds wrong. But the real sense with that book is that we all have to be honest with each other about the good, bad, and the ugly. And you can't expect me to understand everything about your business in the first 5 minutes. You have to be willing to let me answer dumb questions, and you have to appreciate that. And also know that even after we've been working together for 2 years, there's still going to be things that we get wrong, but we have to just be patient with each other and be open and honest and obviously with respect, but be not hold back in those deals. So those are things that we really insist on that are non-negotiables. And the moment that people disengage or they stop being transparent is when we know we're headed down the road to failure, and that sucks. So definitely non-negotiables.
I like that you brought up the dumb questions because I am like, I'm the king of dumb questions. And here's why. Dumb questions are an alias for the first questions people think of, right? They're like the
Yeah.
dumb questions are simply everyone considers them dumb because they know them. They know them because they're always around. They're always around them because it's what they're doing. It's part of their business, but they're not the dumb questions. They're the first questions that pop into people's mind. So if you alienate and look at them as dumb questions and push them away, what you're doing is you're preventing your perspective from being a fresh customer. And then that ultimately removes that ability from you, and you should always be able to see how fresh people see you, right? You should always be
Yeah.
thinking about those first questions. So I like to uh, use my dumb side of me or I like to use that perspective and then bring it up and I ask these questions. What's amazing is like I can ask these questions that people think are dumb, and then I can like wrap a perspective around it and show them how it's not dumb.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. We were having a conversation internally last week. I would be really curious what your perspective on it is, of um, going to that first discovery meeting with a customer, and how much research do you do upfront on the industry, the customer, the business problem, whatever. Like how much do you want to know before you go in? And it's the question of, if I learn too much, I'm going to walk in with some inherent biases. If I don't do any research, then I'm going to walk in completely completely dumb. But sort of what that good balance is, and it's a really interesting topic, and but it's kind of related to what you're saying. What do you think?
Okay, so it's for me, it's dependent upon the industry, right? So like let's say if I'm going to talk to somebody, I know that they're in the healthcare industry, I've got a lot of knowledge to pull on because my brother and mom are doctors, right? And I
Hmm.
grew up with that, so it's always been around me. If it's technology, building software, I've got a lot of so if it's an area where I have a lot of comfort or it's an industry where I know, I will do a brief scan of I'm less interested in their business and I'm going to their about page and reading their bio. I want to know who these people are and how they think as much as possible before I meet the human. And I'm less concerned with their business because I have these core principles of like how I operate. And so I can always just I'm never I'm not usually creating new things. I'm just translating my principles to whatever the conversation is. So I'm a big fan of I ask questions that are simple and I let them respond and I will listen until I have a level of confidence and then I talk. So I'm like mining. And then once I have my head wrapped around the situation, I I go for it.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, and I think that it's interesting. You mentioned the people's backgrounds, and we're obviously most new meetings start off with the introductions around the table, and it's always amazing to me how many businesses bring in employees that don't necessarily have a lot of industry expertise because they want those fresh eyes. So, and again,
Here's
probably.
another perspective. So like I
Mhm.
used because this I'll share some of the how I got here. So I used to do a lot of research, okay?
Mhm.
And I'd look at their business. I'd have all these ideas for them. I'd be so pumped. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for this meeting. I'm going to show them how creative I am. I'm going to solve their problems. I'm going to like help them out. I was like bright eyed and bushy tailed. I get in the meeting. We'd start talking and be all excited. It's not what they wanted. Like it's not even close. They have
Yeah.
this issue that can't even be seen that they're trying to solve. And it has nothing to do with like you couldn't even possibly imagine it. So now the first thing I always start off with is figuring out what their motivations are. What value are we going to exchange for currency? What do they need me for? What are they looking to get done? Because without knowing who they are and what they want, like I could know every fact in the world about their industry. Like all the problems, all the money, everything, nothing like that is all secondary to who they are and what they want. And then my goal also is to set up a second meeting where I can actually bring them value. So I always bring the value on my end and I bring it in a disproportionate amount. Like I'm always looking to bring someone 10, 20 times more value than they were expecting. And then the deal happens. So because it's like getting a sample of working with me, right? So I go
Yeah.
there, I meet with them, I find out, all right, I'm 100%. I'm not on my phone, like I'm not researching. I'm like phones away, eye contact. Who are you? How can I help you? What do you need from me? Okay, I consume a ridiculous amount of information from them, ask them questions, and kind of along the lines of their goals. Take that information, and then I go back and I figure out what I could do. I bring them value. I say, all right, here's A, B, and C. This is what I would do. This is what I would. And what happens is as I tell them like all the things I would be doing and all the value I'd be bringing them, they're like, oh my goodness, this person knows exactly what to do. Everything they say sounds really, really great. And there's no way like let the expert work. Let's just grab this individual and let him do his thing. And
Yeah, and I think you really nailed it, and it's certainly the way that we look at things as well. Because very often, when our customers sit down with us for the first time, they don't even realize that they don't understand their business problem. So if we come in with the solution in the first 5 minutes, we're probably answering a question that they don't have, and probably not even answering the real question because they haven't even figured that out yet. And so it's certainly the way that we approach it. And again, going back to the book Getting Naked, and that's the whole idea, is getting in and really trying to find where the value is. And it's funny, we talked about talking about DevOps when we haven't really, but for me, the probably the best thing with continuous integration and continuous delivery is that it becomes the chihuahua effect, where you're able to deliver small chunks of value so quickly using agile and DevOps, that the idea from my perspective is that you're going back and saying, is this the value you need? Is this the value you need? Are we adding value, or are we going in the wrong direction? So it's that cycle of being able to go back to the person who has the business problem or the business opportunity that they're trying to solve with software technology, and very quickly iterating through to say, is this bringing you value? Is this good? Is this good? And so that's one of the reasons I love the direction that we've gone, especially with containers and CI and CD, of being able to quickly roll those things out so that folks can see it and make a determination. Is, are we accomplishing our goal, which is building and creating value? Because if we're not, we need to either change directions or stop. And so that, kind of cycling back to the whole DevOps conversation, that's what it is for me, and that's where the real value comes out of it.
And so what do you typically do? I noticed you had some case studies, but can you give me an example of like what you've done for a client in relation to DevOps and like
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of these situations where very often there's just a lack of visibility to the process, and
Mhm.
so Agile helped the development team for the most part work better together. So they're talking regularly, they're planning regularly, they're taking ownership of things. But what we really, and the reason we've invested in implementing DevOps practices, is really the ability to give that transparency to everyone involved. So the idea is, so for example, if you have a new build of a piece of software, in the past it was sort of a dance to figure out what's in that build, and is it ready for user acceptance testing, or is it even ready for QA? But now with DevOps best practices, we're able to actually know what's in a build, because it's being delivered auto magically to a known location. It's easier to share with our customers so they can actually see what's in a build. And like I said, because you're integrating all of these systems, then you can tell exactly what's in those in that build, and what's ready to be tested, and the features that that customer can expect. And so that's one big part of it. Another big part of it is really in how we're using orchestration to better manage feature delivery, especially with software that has a large number of customers, and you want to, and you're obviously putting out releases more regularly. You want to be able to have that be more graceful. So whether you're doing feature switching, so that you're not exposing a new feature to the entire user base, but just to a segment to see how things are going, and then being able to continue the rollout or to roll back if necessary. So it's really about increasing visibility and transparency to the process. And our customers, it's kind of like back in the day when we were having to convince our customers that they really did want to pay for dedicated QA staff, if you'll
Mhm.
remember those days.
Oh yeah.
Now a lot of the question is are our customers going to be willing to pay for the extra time required to set up these DevOps processes? And the answer that we're finding is yes, that customers realize that there may be a little bit more time up front in creating a strategy around, for example, your feature branching, or in how you're going to be doing the orchestration of your servers. But at the end of the day, the time that you save and the way you drive down the risk is well worth the investment. And so we've gotten to the point where not all of our customers are asking for DevOps, but those conversations are becoming easier and easier. And certainly some of our larger engagements where they've had some segments of the product set up with these tools, they're asking for it to be across their entire line of products. And so it's been really cool to see that transition. And we're not quite there yet. And obviously the industry isn't. I think a lot of folks don't even really understand what DevOps is yet.
Mhm.
But we're seeing the momentum really pick up speed, and both within our organization and with our customers, and understanding what it is, and what the impact is it can be on their software products.
Yeah, I noticed you write and it looks like you speak a little bit. Are you speaking anytime soon?
We have actually my next engagement. We have a regional developers conference actually here in Winston Salem called the Triad Developers Conference that I'll be talking more about DevOps and culture, and that's coming up in March, I think mid March, and I'm also do regular webinars as well, and you can certainly find out about those on our website. And yeah, and I continue to write, and actually that's one of my goals this year is to pick up the pace of writing as well as speaking. So I would certainly love to do more of that this year.
You gonna put out a book?
Gosh, you're not the first person to ask me that question, but I'm certainly thinking about it. I think I'm at the point right now where I'm taking some notes and thinking through over my career. Especially, I love this challenge of culture and the opportunity there and how it really impacts everything. So maybe so, maybe you'll be the person who puts me over the edge to actually sitting down and spending some time on that.
Oh, I am that person. Do it.
Well, thanks. I needed
um,
that one more nudge.
there you go. I was like the final straw. You got to do it. You got to do it. Um, if if you could go back in time, this is a good one. I love this one. It's always my favorite. If you go back in
Oh
time 10
gosh,
years ago, you
yeah.
give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Um, one piece of advice 10 years ago. I think it's probably worrying less about some of the small things, and really focusing more on how we're working together with our customers and internally. I think we get caught up in some of the minutia of the little things and worrying about some of the little details and losing sight sometimes of the big picture. And so I think that's probably where I would be. Now, granted, 10 years ago, I was just getting started with Small Footprint, so I was just dipping my toes into the entrepreneurial water. But I think that you can really get tied up in the minutia of things and forget about having fun and looking at the big picture and appreciating what a great industry we get to work in and what cool stuff we get to do every day.
I love it. I love that advice. That's really solid, good advice. I love it. Thank you so much for the conversation today.
Yeah, this is it's been a lot of fun. I really enjoy your podcast. I've listened to several episodes now, and I'm looking forward to seeing you talk to more folks over the next few months. I think you're doing something great. It's been an interesting show so far, and congratulations on all your success thus far.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, if you ever need anything, want anything, just send us messages. Say, hey, cover this topic, or we need this, or you should talk to this person. We actively engage with our community of the listeners every single day. People
Cool.
are
I'll
messaging
definitely
us,
do
we
that.
message back.